Recording. Okay. So we'll do this in two parts. Today we'll do part 1, verse 1 to 23. And then in the next class, we'll take from 24 to 47. Let's start with the prayers. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Now, this chapter has got the name Dhyana Yoga. It's also called Ashtanga Yoga. It's called Atma Samyoga Yoga, Atma Samyama Yoga, and the other name is Yoga of Self-Control. All mean the same thing. And the acronym for this chapter is easy, very easy to remember. And what is E is enemy or friend. We will see what Krishna refers to going forward. A is Ashtanga Yoga. This is a path of yoga which you can follow to reach the Lord. S is success and failure. And yogi, we will do this in the next class. So with that, we start with a quick revision of chapter 5 before we get into Dhyana Yoga. So what did we learn in chapter 5? We learned chapter 5 is Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. The background to this is in chapter 3, which is titled Karma Yoga, Arjuna asks Krishna, which is better? Path of action, that is Karma Yoga, or path of knowledge, Gnana Yoga? The importance of Karma Yoga is continued in chapter 5, and Krishna starts talking about this in detail because Arjuna asks him the question again. Which is better? Renunciation of work, that is sannyas, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, or renunciation in work, Karma Yoga? The whole chapter is how Krishna explains this to Arjuna. So this is known as STEP, that's the acronym. So Krishna says, stay in the world. That's the lesson 1. And he says Karma Yoga is equal to, but far easier than Gnana Yoga. And the first step that Krishna tells Arjuna is, if you perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, that is yoga without expecting results, then you become free from bondage. And then he continues giving the characteristics of Yoga Yukta between 5.7 to 5.12. Then comes the most important lesson in Gita is, who are the 3 doers for performing any action? One second. Now I'm getting a message to stop video of my phone. I have stopped it. Does it make any difference to you all?
Nothing.
Nothing, na? So we'll continue like this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Santosh.
Sorry, your screen is not visible. Are you presenting any slide?
Yeah.
That is not visible.
At least I am able to see the screen very well. Karma Yoga, chapter 5, 3 doers.
Nah, you have switched off your mobile now.
Correct.
Okay, you leave it. Now you are on tab now, laptop.
Yes.
Oh, you continue. No problem.
So you can see, na? But Suresh is saying,
yeah, we can see face and your this thing also, slide also, both.
Suresh, you also
continue.
No, I'm not able to see. I can see only your other screen. I can see you, and in other screen there is a picture of goddess.
You come down to first slide, first position. 1, 2, 3, 4 positions.
Okay. Now it is okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Please.
Perfect. So I see my uncle is also joined. Hare Krishna, uncle.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I was missing. A bit late. Sorry.
No problem.
I may have to leave early, but I thought I'll just say hello. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
No problem.
Carry on.
So we were at this stage, 3 doers. So what does Krishna tell us here? Krishna says, for any action, you want to sit, you want to stand, you want to, let's say, aim an arrow, you want to drive. There are 3 contributors to any action. Who are those or what are those? First is Jiva, that is Atma. So that is called the initiating cross. Then second is Paramatma, which is within every living entity, Jiva, that becomes the sanctioning clause. And Prakriti, that's the universe, that becomes the execution clause. Next, going further. Equal vision. This is the second step in this chapter. In the first step, what Krishna said, if you perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, you become free from bondage. The second step, he says, if you focus on me, on Paramatma, then you can attain Mukti, Moksha, liberation. And he also touches upon very briefly in verses 27 to 28, what is Ashtanga Yoga, which is going to be described in detail in this chapter. And the last chapter, verse of this chapter is peace formula, where Krishna describes how one can have enduring peace in this world. So with this, we quickly go to the chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. I said the acronym for this chapter is easy. So first lesson is enemy or friend. So now your curiosity will be aroused to know why is Krishna saying enemy or friend? Who is the enemy? Who is the friend? Mind is the enemy, mind is the friend. We will go how that happens going forward. A is Ashtanga Yoga. This is the lesson number 2. He gives us a detailed picture from how to go from practice to perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. Of course, if you want to really know more about yoga, you should study Patanjali Yoga Shastra. But Krishna is touching about the essence of Ashtanga Yoga in this chapter. So here we get to see the basic practices of meditation. Then we get to see in between the 6.10 to 6.15, realization of Brahman, 6.18 to 6.32, perfection in meditation. Then 6.16 to 23, realization of Paramatma. 6.24 to 6.32, realization of Brahman, Bhagavan. So he gives us the various aspects of how you can see the Lord within you and become self-realized. Then success and yogi, we will cover this in the next chapter. So this whole chapter, if I were to summarize, Krishna explains the process of Ashtanga Yoga. And this is a process of meditation, which we all can use to control our mind and senses. And what's the end result goal of this? To focus and meditate on Paramatma. He gives us various tips in terms of what should be our sitting posture, what should be our eating habits, how should we regulate our breathing, and then how do we sit for meditation. All these details are given in this chapter. So with this brief overview, let's move to, I just said, who is the enemy or my friend? Mind is the enemy or friend. You'll be surprised to know that our mind has 2 important roles to play in every aspect of life. Let's see how it is and what we can do to make our mind a friend rather than an enemy. So with this, we start on the first verse. So here he starts talking to us about Aruraksha stage of Ashtanga Yoga. And in this first 2 verses, Krishna says, you should not give up Nishkama Karma Yoga. And he also says, Sannyasa and Yoga are both the same. Let's see how he describes this. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Anashrita Karma Phalam, Karyam Karma Karotiya, Sasanyasi cha yogi cha, na niragner na chakriya. So he's describing to us who is a real sannyasi and yogi. Let's look at the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is true mystic. He is the true yogi, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. This is na niragnir na chakriya. Let's look at the details and understand this verse. What Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. Anashrita karma phalam. One is unattached to the fruits of his work. In this world, result is the single most motivation for all of us. Let's say you go and ask the World Cup winning captain. Let's say when Dhoni held the World Cup, if you had asked him, what do you feel? He would have said, this is my childhood dream. And I'm so happy to hold the World Cup. So it means that essence of entire work is focused on karma phala. But Krishna is advising the opposite. He says, do not desire the results of your action. So don't take ashraya, take anashrita karma phalam. Don't depend on the results. So this is the essence of being a yogi. In 5.11, Krishna had said, Kayena manasa buddhya, kevalair indriya rapi, yogina karma kurvanti, sangam tektvatma shuddhaye. Who is a yogi? A yogi is one who works primarily for purification, not phala. So Krishna is saying, yogis must follow. What they should follow? Anashrita karma phalam. That is the first qualification. Karyam karma karotiya. He performs actions prescribed by the scriptures as inescapable duty. He follows the scriptures very, very honestly. Such a person is sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. So person who works for the satisfaction of the Supreme and not for his own satisfaction is a perfect yogi and a perfect sannyasi. Krishna very clearly tells Arjuna that na niragner. If you renounce the action and go to the forest and say that I want to meditate, so what you're doing is you're not going to light the fire, which will not help you perform yajna, sacrifice, na chakriya. Then you don't even work for your bodily maintenance. So he says sannyasi, or a person who is following sannyasa, is not one who gives up lighting the fire. He gives up working for his body maintenance. Renunciation doesn't help you. Renounce the fruits and not the action. This is the essence. So continue Nishkama Karma Yoga. Second verse. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. He continues and tells Arjuna, yoga and sannyasa are the same. Detached action. He repeats this constantly throughout the first 6 chapters. It is so important to realize this. It sounds easy, but not easy to do, as you are seeing Arjuna asking the question again and again, chapter after chapter. Which one should I follow? So Krishna says in the translation, what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga. Both are the same. Or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So controlling of his senses is the most important thing that Krishna emphasizes in this verse. Yam sannyasam iti prahur. Sannyasa means renounce the results of one's action. Don't renounce the action. Yogam tam vidhi pandava. What is yoga? Yoga means to have a mind which is not attracted, not agitated by desire to enjoy. Tam vidhi, perform your prescribed activities sincerely. So both sannyasa and yoga mean the same thing, because one who cannot give up the desire to enjoy objects, asanyasta sankalpo, yoga bhavati kaschana, that man cannot be called a yogi, because he is not able to give up the desire for sense enjoyment. So in Srila Prabhupada's purport, he says, work not for our pleasure, but work for Krishna's pleasures. In that way, sannyasa and yoga are combined. Let's move to the next verse. Before we go to 6.3, I thought I must share one slide which gives you the overall view, essence of what is Ashtanga Yoga. The name Ashtanga Yoga says it is an 8-step process. So the first 4 steps are Yoga Ruruksha, that is the beginners. You have Yama, don'ts, regulations and prescriptions. Niyama, they are the do's, rules and prohibitions. You should do yoga and follow these rules. Asana, physical postures to purify the body. Now, it is yoga is widely understood today to be only asana. We have International Yoga Day, but we should remember that Krishna has a far greater meaning of yoga than just asana. Asana is but one anga of Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama, breathing exercises to purify the mind. Now comes the advanced stage of yoga, Yoga Ruda. In this, you have Pratyahara. This is where you start controlling your mind, withdrawing senses from sense objects. Dharana, you hold the Lord's form in mind and meditate on the Lord. Dhyana, intense meditation on the Lord. You start from dharana and intensify it in dhyana. samadhi, total absorption in trance. The verses 20 to 24 in today's class describes samadhi in beautiful verses. So this is the 8-step process of Ashtanga Yoga. That is why it is called Ashtanga Yoga, 8-step process. Let's look at the 6.3 verse. Here, Krishna talks about mind control and detachment. They are the basic requirements for a beginner. Let's read the verse. Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate yoga rudasya tasyaiva samakaranam uchyate. So there are 2 levels of yoga. Krishna is defining Arurukshor and yoga rudasya. Yoga Rukshu is the beginning and Yoga Ruda is the advanced stage. The translation: for one who is a neophyte in the 8-fold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So let's understand this. Aru Rukshor, that is one who is a beginner. Muner Yogam, he is in the beginning stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Karma Karanam Uchyate. So karma is the cause of one's progress, one's spiritual advancement. When you are advanced, when you are able to progress on karma karanam uchyate, yoga rudasya tasyaiva samakaranam uchyate. That means when you are in the advanced stage, Krishna is saying samakaranam uchyate. Sama means inactivity, calmness. Arjuna is asking again and again. So sama means renunciation, cessation of work. So Krishna says in the first stage, work. Karma is your beginning. And at the advanced stage, you may start looking at cessation of work. And that stage, that leads to advancement, liberation, mukti, moksha. So they both have the same effect. It is tranquility of mind. Let's move to the next verse. Yadahi nendriya arteshu na karmasva anusajyate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudas tadochyate. Again, the 2 verses continue telling us what's the beginner stage and what's the advanced stage. Translation: a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. That's the essence of when you move into the advanced level of yoga. So Krishna tells here 3 characteristics to be in the advanced stage. And what are those? Na indriya arteshu. Na indriya arteshu. It means engaging. If you do not engage your senses in sense gratification, that's the first characteristic of an advanced yogi. Second, na karmasva anusajyate. That is pursuing. First is engaging, second is pursuing. Do not allow the mind to pursue sense gratification. Third step, sarva sankalpa sannyasi. This is desiring. This is even more advanced. If you not only give up engaging and pursuing, you should also give up internally the desire for sense gratification. That's the real challenge for any person. You should not even think about it in your mind. Forget about actually doing it. If you are able to achieve this, that is the stage of renunciation. So what Krishna says in this verse is, first step, do not engage your senses, mind behind sense gratification. Do not pursue sense objects for sense gratification. Then he says, do not desire sense objects for sense gratification. Let's look at the next verse. Udared atman atmanam na atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanaha. This is where we come into those 2 famous verses of this chapter, which tells us mind is our friend and mind on an equal footing can be our enemy. So Krishna is now describing in these 2 verses, how is it so? Translation: one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. So the mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Most of us think that whatever our mind does is only for our good, but that is not true. In Gita, the essence of wisdom says mind can mislead us also. I'll give you an example as to how mind can play tricks with us. It thinks that it tells us that this is right for you when it is not actually so. So if you have to understand how mind is your friend, how mind is your enemy, let's understand how mind operates. Mind operates at 4 levels. So we all have thoughts continuously bombarding us. That is mana, mind. Intellect. We can analyze, we can decide, we can discriminate. That is buddhi. That is intelligence. So you have mana, you have buddhi, intellect. Then you have chitta. We are all conscious jivas, but when the chitta or the chit gets attached to an object or a person, the chit becomes materially grounded, it becomes chitta. So this is the 3rd level at which mind operates. And the 4th one is most familiar to all of us, very easy to understand, ego. We always identify with our body and we get this illusion to think that, oh, I am so-and-so. I am proud of my wealth. I come from this family. I have this kind of land which comes to me as my family property. I am a PhD. So all the things that make us feel proud is where the mind is operating at the 4th level, that is ego. Now, the mind and the soul are connected. There is one connection between the mind and the soul, and there is another connection between mind and the body. The ego is the connection between the mind and the body. This verse is talking about the connection between the mind and the soul. How? Let's look at this. Udared atmana atmanam. Udared means to elevate, deliver, liberate. So mind has to be controlled in such a way that we liberate atmanam. Who is this atma? Atma is mind, atmanam is the soul. So use the mind in such a way that the soul becomes liberated. That's what Krishna says. How? Na atmanam avasadayet. If you do not engage your mind, if you do not control your mind, if you allow it to become avasadayet, if you allow it to degrade, then the soul becomes degraded. Then what happens? Atmaiva ripur atmanaha. So mind is your friend. Atmaiva hi atmano bandhur if the mind is controlled. Atmaiva ripur atmanaha. Mind is your enemy if your mind is not controlled. So this is what is the essence of this verse. So what we should take home as learning, try and control our mind. Do not allow it to run helter-skelter. Do not allow it to run astray. Keep it within the range. Ask it to follow scriptures. Then you'll be able to control the mind. Going forward, Krishna also tells, how do we control the mind? 6th verse. Bandhur atma atmanastasya yenatmaiva atmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartet atmaiva shatruvat. So this is very clearly telling us bandhur and shatruvat. Mind is your friend, mind is your enemy. Translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. How does this happen? Bandhur atmanas tasya. Bandhu is friend. Atma is mind. Atmanas is the soul. So mind is the friend of the soul when yenatmaiva atmana jitaha. So he's emphasizing the point. When the mind is controlled, mind is friend of the soul. Shatrut, now then he says, anatmanastu shatrutve. When the mind is not controlled, then atmaiva shatruvat. The same mind will act as your enemy. So it's easy to understand what Krishna says. Now let's take a horse and a chariot. If you allow the horse to drive the chariot, the horse can take you anywhere the horse wants. That's like an uncontrolled mind. The mind running wild behind desires. The moment you have a charioteer in the charioteer controls the horse. That's what Krishna is asking Arjuna to do. If you are able to control your mind, mind is your friend. If you allow it to run helter-skelter, then it becomes your enemy. So what Prabhupada says in the purport, very strong words. He says, in order to disobey your own mind, learn to obey Krishna. How can we counter the mind? By a combination of willpower and divine power. That's why we should be taking shelter of scriptures. Now you'll be wondering, how can mind be our own enemy when it is our mind? It is said, mind seduces to do something wrong and then scolds us for doing wrong. Now let me give you an example, then you'll understand this. Now when you see some very good food, could be rasgulla, gulab jamun, ice cream, etc. So you are tempted, so you overeat. As long as you're eating, the mind is enjoying it. After a day, when you start looking at your weight, you're talking about control, weight control, diet control, then the same mind says, you are a glutton. You are not able to control yourself. Why did you overeat? So the same mind yesterday tempted us to eat, and the same mind today is saying, why are we overeating? This is the beauty of mind. So we should always try to listen to only what is good and not listen to everything that the mind says. Now, symptoms of a person in Yoga stage, in the advanced stage. A very, very interesting verse. Jitatmana prasantasya paramatma samahitaha sitoshna sukha dukkeshu tata mana pamanayo. What is Krishna saying here? He says, if you want to get into advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga, you must rise above the 3 levels of duality. This has been repeated even in chapter 2. Translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, sukha, dukkha, heat and cold, sita, ushna, honor and dishonor, mana, apamanayo are all the same. What is Krishna saying? Krishna says, jitatmanaha, the person who has conquered the mind, what happens to this person? Prashantasya. Shantasya means peaceful. Prashantasya means sublimely peaceful, tranquil. He is at bliss. He is not excited by hopes, pleasures, miseries. He is above that. Because you can reach this kind of a happiness only when you stop looking outwards and start looking inwards. Concentrate on Paramatma Samahitaha. When you become close to Paramatma, when you try to see him within you, you are enjoying that eternal bliss. Prashantasya. This is the first verse in Gita where Krishna very clearly uses the word Paramatma. And we all know that Paramatma is sitting along with Atma within each one of the jivas. So what he says is, if you have conquered your mind, then you are above the 3 levels of duality. What are the 3 levels of duality all of us face in this world? First is physical. What is physical? He says Sita, Ushna, heat and cold. Then comes mental, at the mind level, Sukha, Dukkha, happiness, distress. Then we go at the stage of ego, Mana, Apamana, honor, dishonor. If you are able to rise above this, if you are able to fix your mind on the Lord, Paramatma, then you are able to rise above the levels of duality and learn to live in this world happily amidst the surrounding challenges of misery, sorrow, whatever comes your way. We are able to understand that this is transient, this is temporary. We have to focus our minds on Krishna. That is our permanent anchor. 6.8. Another wonderful verse. Gnana Vignana Truptatma Kutasto Vijitendriya Yukta iti Uchyate Yogi Samalostrasma Kanchanaha. What is Krishna saying here? Once you are above the level of duality, you are blessed with this equal vision. That's how you start rising in the Ashtanga Yoga. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Gnana, Vignana, Truptatma. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Wonderful, isn't it? So he says, Gnana Vijnana Truptatma. One who has knowledge, that is Gnana. One who has realization, that is Vijnana. Such a person becomes Truptatma. So there are three stages of Gnana being translated, transformed to Vijnana. Hearing, knowledge enters our ears. Contemplating, the knowledge enters our head. Then it becomes Jnana. When you apply it, when you internalize it, it enters into our heart. That becomes Vijnana. So what is realization? Realization is a reality which we accept that it is a reality. So what are the three stages? Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana. This is according to the Upanishads. So this is the three ways in which Gnana can become Vijnana. Let's take an example to a couple of examples to understand what is this Gnana, what is this Vijnana. You take a map. What does a map do? It shows us the direction. Let's say we need to go to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Pune. So good to how to go, the map shows. That is Jnana. Take prescription. When a doctor writes a prescription. So what is prescription? It's knowledge. I have to take medicines to cure my fever. That is not Vijnana. Take recipe, how to cook. Take a manual, how to operate a TV or a mobile. All these are sources of knowledge, scriptures. Scripture also gives you Jnana. Once you apply that, then it becomes Vijnana. Now, how do I apply it? If I have a recipe, how to make, let's say, biryani. I read the recipe, I bring the vegetables, I cook the thing as per the process, then that knowledge has been applied, that becomes Vijnana. Now, if it is so simple, everyone can apply Gnana to Vijnana. All of us read Gita, all of us can read Gita, all of us can apply this knowledge and become Vijnani. But is it so easy? Krishna says it's not so easy. Each of us, you are either a karmi, a karma yogi, or a jnani. Both of us have challenges. And what are those challenges? Desires, they originate from the mind and entrap the karmis. Doubts originates from the intelligence and entrap the jnanis. So Krishna says in Gita, Mai arpito mano buddhir, offer both your mind and intelligence to me. When you are with me, don't do jnana vijnana. Just accept the reality. That is self-realization. You have conquered your senses and you become yukta, connected with the Lord. Such a person, iti uchyate yogi. So such a person is having equal vision. And what is that equal vision? Samalostrasma kanchanaha. Sama is equal. Now, lostra is pebble. Asma is stone. Kanchana is gold. Now, how do you understand this? What is the essence of this? Why is Krishna saying, Arjuna, you must have equal vision at this level of Ashtanga Yoga? So Prabhupada very nicely explains this in the purport. He says, for a karma yogi, mundane scholarship, knowledge, they are all considered to be extremely valuable. But once you turn inwards, you start looking at all these things of greatness in the material world. They don't have more value than a pebble, stone, or even gold for a self-realized person. So that's the essence of this. When you turn within, all the things that we have externally decorated ourselves don't have so much of value, which used to make us lose our sleep, lose our cool. That is being samadarshina, being samalostrasma kanchana yukta iti uchyate yogi, gnana vijnana truptatma. That is the level of understanding we must reach after reading the scripture, after you engage yourself in Ashtanga Yoga. Next point 9. Suhran mitrari udasina madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushu api cha papeshu samabhuddhir vishishyate. Now Krishna is continuing the equal vision, and he gives us another wonderful verse with wonderful example. How to apply this while living in this world? That is the essence of this verse. A person is considered still further advanced in Ashtanga Yoga when he regards honest well-wishers. Now you see the kind of relationships that Krishna describes. All of these people we come across in our lives. Affectionate benefactors, the neutral, the mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and sinners, all with an equal mind. You may come across different kinds of people, different circumstances, but your faith and your focus should be of equal vision. All of them mean the same to you. Surudam, what is Surun? Surun is friends, well-wishers. So in 5.29, Krishna had used the same word, Surudam Sarvabhutanam. So Surudam is friend. So when we deal with people who are friends, we have equal vision. Mitra. So Surudan is friend, well-wisher. Mitra is a friend, benevolent friend. Ari is an enemy. He can cause you harm. You should look at him also with equal vision. Udasina, he is neutral. He doesn't take sides. Madhyastha, he is a mediator. He is generally useful for conflict resolution. Dveshya, one who is envious. Bandhushu, envious means, he is not your friend. He has not your good intentions in mind, ill intentions in mind. He is a person of aversion. Avoid him. Bandhushu, he is a relative. Sadhushu, he is a saint. Papeshu, he is a sinful person. He indulges in all sinful actions. Samabuddher, treat all of them with equal vision. Vishishyate, such a person is higher in the level of Ashtanga Yoga. This is similar to the word Pandita Samadarshina. In that verse, in 5.18, Krishna had said, Yogi sees all living beings equally, including humans and animals. And that verse he had said, Brahmane Gavi Hastini Sunichaiva Sopakecha. So whether it's a Brahmana, Shudra, dog eater, dog, elephant, all of them should be seen with equal vision. So Krishna is now saying that you should look at people who are righteous, like your friend, Mitra, Udasina, Madhyastu, Bandhushu, Sadhu, they're all righteous people. But if you look at Ari, Dveshya, Papeshu, they are not righteous people. So Krishna is saying, when you live in this world, you should have an equal vision to both people who are following the Dharma path and the people who are following the Adharma path. You don't lose your cool because of what people are going to do to you. So here we move to the next 7 verses. We talk about practicing stage of Ashtanga Yoga, and then we move to the perfection stage of Ashtanga Yoga. 6.10. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sita ekake yata chittatma nirasir aparigraha. What is the one-line meaning of this? Practicing in the Yoga Ruda stage. So now Krishna is coming to practicing stage. What's the translation of this? A transcendentalist, yogi, should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone, rahasi stitaha, in a secluded place, and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Nirasir aparigraha. So Krishna is now talks about the preparation stage of meditation. Yogi yunjita satatam. Yogi means a transcendentalist, a mystic. Yunjitam means concentrated in meditation. He is satatam, always, constantly meditate on the Lord. Atmanam rahasi stita. You should practice yoga in a solitary place. You can't say, I'll go to Dadar market and practice yoga. You will not be able to concentrate. So choose your place carefully. And meditation is a solitary activity. It is not a group activity. Ekaki yata chittatma. No distraction. Yata chittatma. Control your mind. Nirasir aparigraha. Nirasir means one who has given up material desires. Parigraha. Parigraha is storing or hoarding things. Aparigraha means you have given up all material possessions. You have nothing like mine, I, me. So the way to start practicing yoga seriously is be externally secluded, rahasi sthita, and internally ekaki yatta chittatma. That is your way to prepare yourself to reach samadhi. That will be coming in the following verses. Going further. Now, the next 4 verses, we'll take it as pairs of 2. 11 and 12, 13 and 14. Suchau deshe pratistapya sthiram asanam atmanaha nati uchritam nati nicham chailajina kushottaram tattaraikagram manakrutva yata chittendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjad yogam atma vishuddhaye. So what is Krishna trying to tell us here? He talks about how do we sit for Ashtanga Yoga. Then how do we prepare our consciousness? So he's trying to help us prepare for Ashtanga Yoga. Translation is, to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. Chailajina, kushottaram. The seat should be neither too high, nati uchritam, nor too low, nati nicham, and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogis then should sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. So the 11th verse is about sitting and 12th verse is about our internal, how to control the mind and consciousness. So first is, what is Suchi? Suchau deshe means choose a pure sanctified place. You situate your pratistapya, that is, you settle down in a pure, secure, safe place. Sthiram asana, asanam atmanaha. You should sit in a steady asana, whichever is comfortable to you. You can fold your legs, you can sit in Padmasana, choice is yours. But sit in that comfortably. You should not be changing your position, posture very frequently. Then choose a place which is not too high, nati uchritam, not too low, nati nicham. Why? If you choose an elevated place, then maybe you will give an opportunity for your mind to get distracted. You will have lovely sceneries to see, beautiful flowers, birds chirping. So you should not get disturbed by beauty too. So he says, don't take a elevated place. Then he says, don't take a place too low. Why? Let's say you sit in a small ditch. Then you may be bitten by an insect, there could be a scorpion, etc., which can disturb you. So choose your place carefully. Then he gives further caution. Chailajina kushurottam. Kushottaram. What is the meaning of that? Chailajina means a soft cloth. Tiger skin, deer skin, or soft cloth. So don't sit on hard ground. Try and lay a soft cloth and sit on that. Why? Why does he recommend Chailajina? In the past, when they used to go to forest, any animal skin like deer skin or tiger skin does not attract insects, scorpions, snakes. It acts like a repellent. So that gives you safety to sit and do meditation. Now you may ask, oh, well, tiger skin, deer skin. How is it recommended when you are following Ashtanga Yoga? So Prabhupada very clearly says in the purport that please note that tiger skin and deer skin can be had by waiting for them to die, not go and killing them. You don't have to be a violent person to acquire deer skin or tiger skin. Next verse, how do we prepare our consciousness? Tatraikagram manakrutva. Concentrate the mind on one point. Aikagram, attention, put everything aside. It's like saying, I have so many things to do, but this is not the time for that. This is the time for yoga. I will fix my mind on Paramatma, on Krishna. Yata chittendriya kriya. Control all the activities of the mind and the senses. Prepare your consciousness for meditation. Upavishyasane yunjat. Sit down. Yogam Atma Vishuddhaye, to yoga for purification of the consciousness. And what is Krishna telling us? That how to sit, how to choose a place, how to sit on a soft cloth. This is applicable to not only Ashtanga Yoga, it is applicable to even our Bhakti Yoga. If you have to do chanting, you can follow the same guidelines. Let's look at the next two set of verses. Samam Kaya Shirogrivam Dharyan Achalam Stira Sampreksha Nasikagram Swam Disas Chanavalokayan. 14th verse. Prashantatma Vigatha Bir Brahmachari Vrute Stitaha Manasamyamya Machitto Yukta Asita Matparaha. How to meditate? Krishna is telling Arjuna that too. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with the unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, brahmachari, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. What is Krishna saying? This is about sitting. This is externals, this is internal. Samam Kaya Sirogrivam. Now, Kaya is the middle section of the body, Shira is the head, Grivam is the neck. So Krishna is saying sit erect, all in a straight line. Most of us have this habit of sitting slumped. We either bend our back, our head is slumped like this. So Krishna says that is not conducive for concentration, not conducive for meditation. Dharyan Achalam Stira. Sit straight and look, don't look here and there. Achalam Stira means focus on one point. Make a determined effort. That is called Stira. Sampreksha Nasikagram Swam. You should gaze at the tip of the nose or at the midpoint of the eyebrows. Why is it? Why is Krishna emphasizing even where one should stare? That is because he says, if you look at anything else, these are the 2 points which are of no interest. It has nothing exciting, the tip of your own nose or the midpoint of your eyebrows. So he says it helps mind get focused. And it also prevents the mind from sleeping or wandering. So that's the reason why the advice is to focus on your own tip of the nose. Disas Chanavalokayan. Don't look here and there. This is even more interesting. Prashantatma Vigathabher. So what is saying? Sit with a peaceful mind, Prashantatma, Vigathabher, free from fear. Now you may be wondering, why is Krishna talking about fear in Ashtanga Yoga? So in the past, many a times people used to move towards a slightly secluded forest area so that they could sit peacefully undisturbed. But the advice here is, don't go to a place where your mind becomes fearful. Don't go to a place of the forest where wild animals roam. Then you will be fearful that, what if a tiger or a fox attacks me? So he says, choose a spot which is safe and then get into doing meditation. Vigatabhir is be free from fear. Brahmachari vrate stitaha. Now there are some rules and regulations in Ashtanga Yoga. Who is a brahmachari? One who is following sexual abstinence, celibacy, and he is totally dedicated to following the focus on Brahman. He is following, or he is pursuing his spiritual reality. This is the first reference to brahmachari in Gita so far. He has always been referring to this indirectly, but this is the first time he says brahmachari. So brahmachari is something which is a requirement for Ashtanga Yoga. So in a lighter vein, a yogi cannot say that I'll go to a forest with a yogini. You have to go alone. Manasamyamya machitto. Fix your mind, regulate your mind, and fix your mind on me. Yukta asita matparaha. What is the purpose of yoga? The purpose of yoga is to attain Krishna. In simple words, Yukta asita matparaha. In 2.61 also Krishna had said, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. So most of us have a very limited understanding of yoga when you refer to it as Ashtanga Yoga, or you refer to it as International Yoga Day, which is more or less to do with asanas. But asana is just one anga of Ashtanga Yoga. The real purpose of yoga is Yukta Asita Matparaha. Now we come to the most important verse, which is going to give us the goal of yoga. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yoginiyata manasaha shantim nirvana paramam mat samstam adhigacchati. Goal of Ashtanga Yoga. Translation. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. Mat samstam adhigacchati. What is Krishna telling Arjuna here? Yunjan eva sadatmanam. Yunjam means concentrating. Sada means constantly. Atmanam, concentrate the mind on the self, Paramatma. Yogi niyata manasa. Do not allow the mind to wander. Control the body, mind, and its activities. Regulate them so that it is focused on Atmanam. Shantim nirvana paramam. Golden words. You will attain supreme bliss, peace, and cessation of material existence. Mat samstam adhigacchati. What will happen if you follow this process of yoga? Krishna is very clearly saying, Mat samstam adhigacchati. You will come to me. You will abide with me. The result is, this is what is all jivas aspiring for. Mukti, moksha, liberation from material existence. Krishna has used mat chitta, mat paraha, mat sthanam. All mean the same. You can attain peace, ultimate peace, reached by reaching my abode, Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavana. Let's look at 16th verse. Nati asnatastu yogosti, na chaikantam anasnataha, na chati swapnasilasya, jagrutu naiva charjuna. Now he's giving recommendations to Arjuna, what to follow. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much. I'm sure all of us understand this. Or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep enough. Very simple to understand, isn't it? Nati asnatastu yogosti. Overeating is not recommended. In fact, Patanjali has a very interesting fact to share. He says, when you eat, you should eat in such a way that half of your stomach is filled with food, 1/4 with liquid, and 1/4 should be kept free for the movement of air. What the essence of it is, don't fill your stomach with food. Stop eating when you're just about feeling comfortable. Na chaikantam anasnataha. Do not fast too much. There are only 2 fasting days recommended in a month, Ekadashi. Just do that. That's enough. Don't go for excessive fasting. Na chati swapnashilasya. Don't sleep too much. 6 hours of good sleep is more than sufficient. Jagrutu naiva charjuna. Don't wake up for too long. But these days, no, it is not uncommon to see people working for 14 hours, 15 hours, then they come back home in hard traffic, and then you hardly have good time for sleep. Don't do this. This is not good for a Ashtanga yogi. Next verse. Yuktahara viharasya, yukta testasya karmasu, yukta swapna bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. What is Krishna saying here? He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So self-control will help you on the path of self-realization. In this verse, we have heard yoga, yogi, yukta very commonly in Gita. So all of them mean connected with the Lord. This is the first time where Krishna is using the word yukta, which slightly has a different context, different meaning. Here, yukta means regulated. So Krishna is saying yuktahara, one who is regulated in eating. Viharasya, one who is regulated in his entertainment. Don't work too hard. Don't get into your yoga practice the whole day. You are allowed a break. You can take a walk. You can enjoy the nature. Yukta chestasya karmasu. Whatever karma you do, regulate it. don't overwork. Don't be a workaholic. You should be balancing your work. Have enough time for material achievements and have enough time for spiritual achievements. You must be able to do your chanting. You must be able to do your meditation in your busy lifestyle. If you are able to find time, then you are leading a balanced life. If you say, no, I have no time, then you have to reflect. Why is it so? Then he says, Yukta Swapna Bodhasya, be regulated in one sleeping. Don't sleep more than 6 hours. If you are able to regulate yourself, practice yoga, then yogo bhavati dukkha. What is ha? Ha means destruction of material activities. Dukkha means destruction of misery. This is how you can be free from miseries by following these regulated practices. Next verse. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani eva vatistate nispruha sarva kamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. This is now perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. You one verse after another verse really takes us closer and closer to how you achieve samadhi. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. What does the perfect yogi do? How does he achieve perfection? So Krishna is describing that. Yada viniyatam chittam. Control your senses. So chittam, chit is consciousness and chitta is when consciousness is attached to material things. So don't allow consciousness to get attracted to material things. Atmani eva vatistate. Look at yourself. Be situated at the level of Atma. Look inwards. Tistate. Tistate means situated. So Atmani eva vatistate. Situate yourself within yourself. How? Nispruha. Without desires. Spruha means desires. Nispruha means no desires. Sarva kamebhyo. No hankering for any desires in whatever you do. Yukta iti uchyate tada. Such a person is yukta, well situated in yoga. You are eating, you are sleeping, but all the times we are viniyatam chittam. Our consciousness is controlled and we are always focused on the Paramatma within. Even in devotional service, when that's called Archana. So Archana is nothing but what Krishna is saying. Whatever senses we have, engage all the senses in the service of the Lord. Why engagement is important? Srila Prabhupada brings out or describes a very important point. He says, you cannot ask the mind, hey, don't do this. If you tell the mind, it's not going to listen to you. If it was so easy, then we wouldn't have been reading Gita, trying to understand how to control mind. It was just an instruction. Mind, don't do this. It's like telling a smoker, stop smoking from tomorrow. You go and ask a smoker how difficult it is. Mind doesn't work that way. That's the reason why Krishna is giving this process of Ashtanga Yoga, because he says, engage your mind. Stop working is not a solution. Stop doing is not going to work. Abnegation is not practical. The moment you say viniyata chittam, I engage my senses in the pursuit of spirituality, then I'm able to control my mind. That's the reason why Krishna says how you should achieve this control step by step. He gives us a wonderful example of how a mind is when your mind is controlled. Yata deepo nivatasto nengate sopama spruta yogino yata chittasya yunjuto yogam atmanaha. Powerful example. He says, perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. Your mind should be like a lamp in a windless place. Let's look at how he describes this. He says, as a lamp in a windless place does not waver. It's very clear. So the transcendentalist, the Ashtanga Yogi, the Karma Yogi, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in meditation on the transcendental self. So he says, try to be like a flame in a windless place. Yata Deepo Nivatasto. What is Deepa? Deepa is the flame. Lamp. What is Vata? Vata is wind, air. So we should learn from the nature. Make university, make universe your university is a powerful statement I have read. So Krishna is saying, learn from nature. What happens to a lamp when there is no wind? It does not flicker and it burns steadily. Similarly, he's giving an example here. Upama means example. He's giving you an analogy. What he says is, Yogino yata chittasya. If your chitta is controlled, yunjuto yogam atmanaha, consciousness is focused on atma, atma tattva within, then your mind will always remain steady in meditation. It will not get distracted. What causes our consciousness, our mind to flicker is our material desires. So material desire is like the wind. If there is no material desires, there is no wind. If there is no wind, the lamp does not flicker. If there is no desire, the mind doesn't get distracted. That's the essence of this verse. Now, we will take the last 4 verses together. That's how Srila Prabhupada has compiled this. One of the best verses in Gita to understand what samadhi is, what you can achieve by focusing within you and stop looking outside. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. This is the 20th verse. So we'll go through all the 4 verses and then take the translation and purport together. Sukam atyantikam yattad buddhi grhyam atindriyam veti yatrana chaivayam stitas chalati tattvataha yam labdvachaparam labham manyate nadikam tatha yasmin sthito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidya dukha samyoga viyogam yoga samjnitam. All the 3.5 verses are now combined together. Let's look at the translation. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, so this is the first time he's saying what happens to, if you follow all the 7 steps, you reach the stage of samadhi. One's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities. Mind is at peace by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. Pashyan atmani tushyati. In that joy state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. So now they are no longer material senses. Established as one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. So what is the gain of being in samadhi? No misery in this world can disturb us. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So this is the 3.5 verses which describes the ultimate stage of Ashtanga Yoga, that is samadhi. You are situated in trance. You are one with the Lord. Now, as we go through this verse, I'll give a brief or a bit of a context. So we don't have much understanding of what samadhi is. So from the scriptures, I have just picked up 1 or 2 lines to make you understand what samadhi is Krishna talking about. Samadhi is also of 2 types. The first is sampragnata. Sampragnata means mind is focused. Ekagrata. How do you focus? By the right knowledge. Asampragnata. Mind is stopped. Here Krishna is talking about asampragnata. Mind is turned inwards. That is samadhi. And happiness is derived from the senses. What is asampragnata samadhi? These 3.5 verses answer them. Now here you have yatro paramate chittam. Now we have used chittam before. We have understood that mind has 4 levels and chit is one of them. And chitta is when the consciousness gets attracted to or attached to matter. So this is, now how do you understand? If you understand chittam clearly, then we can get an understanding of this verse. So chit is the consciousness, and chitta is when the consciousness gets attached to the matter. It gets rooted in matter. How do we understand this? Let's say we go to a movie theater. We buy our ticket and walk into the movie theater. As soon as we are inside the movie hall, we try to find our seat, and our chit is active. The overall consciousness is active. We are conscious of dim lighting. There is an advertisement being played on the big screen. There are, nicely lit top floor, people milling around, noise, light music, all these things we are aware. That is our chit at play. Now, what happens when the movie starts? The chit gets attracted, rooted into the emotions of the movie. Whatever happens in the movie hall, you are enjoying that emotions. Your chit has now become chitta. The person, the movie, the hero laughs, you laugh. The heroine cries, you cry. So that is what happens to us. And that's what happens to us when we face misery or joy in this world. So Krishna is saying, please understand, don't do this. Yatro paramate chittam. When the chitta is entangled in matter, it gets affected by misery, joy, glee, whatever, dualities. He says, take this mind out of this. Stop the chit getting engaged in matter. So you are in the movie hall, but you're not really attracted by the emotions in the movie hall. Just try doing this for 5 minutes and then you'll understand how difficult it is. So Krishna is saying, yatro paramate chittam. Do not allow your chitta to get entangled in matter. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Niruddham means cessation, stoppage. So he says, move your mind to the level of stopped. It stops looking at matter and it starts looking inwards. It's looking at only within Paramatma. So the absorption of consciousness from external objects stops and the absorption of consciousness internally starts. That's when the mind stops. Now, what is the stage at which Niruddham happens? And I must give you a brief context here. So there are 4 levels of mind, and now there are 5 levels of mind control. So Niruddham is not a simple thing. So if you see this context, then you will understand what Krishna is saying. Mudha, that is the first level of mind control. A Mudha is easily bewildered. He's deluded. He's lazy. So, many a times Krishna has said, be an asamudo, don't be a Muda. Skipta, that is the second level. You are agitated, so you should not get agitated. So that is agitation control at the level of Kipta. Vikshipta, you are easily distracted. Ekagrata, concentrated. Now, if you are writing an exam, I don't have to tell you, we will have the best concentration 1 hour before the exam starts. We remember whatever we read. That is the power of ekagrata, consciousness, focus. And the last stage is nirodha. That is when a devotee is in a samadhi. That is trance. You are in love with Krishna. So Niruddham yoga sevaya, you are offering yourself to the Lord at that level of mind control. You have even moved beyond concentration, beyond ekagrata. That is Niruddham yoga sevaya. What happens when your mind stops? Yatra chaivatmanam. At that stage, Atmana becomes purified and it turns inwards to perceive Atmanam. That is the Paramatma sitting within. And when you do that, you are in Pashyan Atmani Tushtati. You're delighting. Atmani indicates the body. Atmana, Chaiva Atmana. Atmana is the mind and Atmanam is the Lord. Atmani is the body. Atmani is the body, Atmana is the mind, Atmanam is the Lord. So if all the 3 work together, then you are in trance. You are experiencing the grace of the Lord and your mind has stopped. You are one, you are in union with the Lord. This is like, how do we understand this? You take a glass which has muddy water. We cannot see through it, isn't it? Because it's muddy. Just if you put alum into the water, within a few minutes, all the mud particles settle down and the water becomes clear. Similarly, what is Krishna saying? If you stop yatro paramate chittam, stop your chitta getting absorbed in material things, turn within, niruddham, your mind stops thinking about senses and starts looking within, you are in transcendental bliss. He describes what is the transcendental bliss. Sukham athyantikam yattad, you are in limitless, ultimate, sublime bliss. Buddhi grayam atendriyam, it is beyond indriyam. It is even beyond the level of mind. You are at that level because the mind has stopped. Even your intelligence starts rejoicing in that bliss. It is transcendental. Veti yatra na chaivayam. That person, that illumined yogi, once he is situated in this, he will never depart. He would never like to come out of that samadhi for as long as he can, because he is beyond the body senses. Titas chalati tatvataha. He is completely established within himself. The mind is fixed. Mind is a friend, mind is an enemy. You are above that stage. Mind has stopped. It has allowed itself to become one with the inner Lord. That is when you have Titas Chalati Tatvataha. So when mind is stopped, what happens? This verse describes 2 steps for life's greatest achievement. All of us strive, all of us want, all of us desire. What is that? Yam labdva chaparam labam manyate nadikam tatha. He says, at the stage of samadhi, you are above hankering. What is hankering? I am the richest man in India, but I want to be the richest man in the world. That is hankering. The last 2 lines, Yasmin Sito na dukkena gurunapi vichilate, talks us how to stop lamenting. What is lamenting? Whatever you have in this material world can be taken away within a second. Do you all agree? Nothing in this world is forever. So success and failure, both are temporary. It is an illusion. Today you're successful, tomorrow you may not be. So the lamenting is the fear in the mind that what if I lose everything? So for us to live happily, these 2 things always come in the way. Either we want something more or we fear whatever we have, we will lose it. So Krishna is saying, if you have yam labdva, you have attained this greater joy by looking inside. Do not yasmin stitona dukkena. This stage of yoga, this stage of samadhi, you will never get disturbed by dukkha. We are always in touch with dukkha. You are living within misery. Dukkhalayam ashaswatam is how this universe is described, but you are not affected by dukkha. Guru napi vichalyate, because they have Krishna. Their faith is completely welded to Krishna. They are in union with Krishna. That's the joy of being in samadhi. Tam vidyad. He's saying, Arjuna, know this, what happens if you achieve samadhi. Dukkha samyoga. All of us are entangled in dukkha. That is a reality of life. Samyoga. What does this do? It helps us. It insures us against. It's like taking an insurance policy. With this samadhi, you will be in a position to overcome the state of misery because you are above duality. Not only you're above duality, you have severed the connection with the misery to cause you pain, to cause you grief, because your mind has stopped. The mind is no longer at the stage of duality. Vyogam. Vyogam means separation. Vyogam yoga samjnitam. That is the stage of ultimate perfection. That is when you are in perfect samadhi. So Krishna describes how in Ashtanga Yogi, an Ashtanga Yogi at the stage of samadhi achieves permanent success, liberation from miseries, and contact with ultimate happiness. So with this, we end this part 1 of 6th chapter. A quick summary of what we learned. We learned this is the acronym for this is easy. Lesson 1 is mind is your enemy or friend. Then Krishna described to us Ashtanga Yoga from practice to perfection. We learned basic practices of meditation, realization of Brahman stage in the verses 6.10 to 15. Then in 6.15, he taught us what is perfection, purpose of yoga. Shantim nirvana paramam matstamstam adhigacchati yukta asita matparaha. The goal of yoga is to achieve oneness with the Lord. And the last 4 verses describe samadhi to us. What is samadhi? You are liberated from miseries. That is what all of us want. And you are in contact with ultimate happiness. Going forward, we will start realization of Bhagwan in the next 8 verses. We will cover that in the next class. So these 2 will be for the next class. Thank you very much. Let me see if this plays today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'll be leaving now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
Good one. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions.
No, thank you, boss. Great session today.
Thank you, Alok.
Thank you. Nice session.
Thank you. Santosh, any questions?
No, so far. Sorry, I joined a bit late, but
Okay.
I just started from the verse 1. So that's great.
Okay. Murari, Ramesh. No questions? Okay. If there are no questions, then I take this opportunity to thank all of you. Have a wonderful Sunday evening, and let's assemble again next month, same time, same date, to continue with Dhyana Yoga Part 2.
Sham?
Yeah.
Morning, you've seen my wishes, sir?
Yes.
One Ram statue and Sita.
Right.
It is a great grandfather, this thing, idols.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Somebody told every day how to perform puja.
Okay.
For me, it was difficult. Then I gave it to a person who do every day full puja on that.
Okay.
He's a pujari in Shankar Bhat Ballari.
Okay.
He's just 26 years.
I see.
He is a follower of Ram.
Okay.
I gave it him. Every 2 months once I go and I see my Ram. Because every day how to perform that. That ideal is like that.
Okay.
For us it is difficult, na? Where in job it is very difficult.
True.
Only the 2 stars he requested.
Okay.
I'll perform. He's a Rama Bhakta, something like that.
Okay.
That is a photo of that statues.
I see. Okay. I didn't know this. Very good you told me.
I kept it as this thing. Every year I wish with that only. To remember that.
Acha. So now I will remember.
It's a good, very good.
Very good.
How about others in the family?
Everything well. All is well.
Okay. Vani and Sonu went to see Ram Temple Darshan.
Ram Navami alva. Okay.
Ram Navami. I went to my Shankar Bhat. I go for everything for my Shankar Bhat. The Sharadamba statue is there.